When I was a kid, back in the olden days, if you wanted to watch a show, you literally needed to be in front of the TV at a certain time to watch that show. And it was only available for that time. If you wanted to talk on the phone was attached to the wall and it had a cord and then the handle, and you could sit and talk on the phone. And that was the space you could sit and talk in. And usually that phone was in an open area where everyone else could listen. I know this may seem so foreign to some of you, but these were the times that I grew up in. You had to be to the TV at a certain time to watch the certain show you wanted to watch, or you had to be connected to the phone at the wall to have that conversation. Things have definitely changed, but we need to make sure with those changes that we're still setting limits and boundaries as the parents, that we are the ones that provide those limits and boundaries and recognizing that responsibility as a parent. In today's age, kids have access to technology at all times. Any time of the day or night, they can have access. They can get on a device and access a show. They can be entertained. They can talk to someone. So whether it's teenage years, I'm talking all the way down to toddlers, we have the ability to give our kids access. As the parents, we need to make sure that we still have boundaries and limits, though we don't have the cord that's attached to the wall and the phone that's attached to the wall, and we don't have a time frame necessarily wherein a movie can only be seen. We can create those boundaries and limits, and it's necessary that we do. It will directly impact their development. If kids spend too much time on screens, it can influence them. Studies are showing that it directly impacts their mental health. We are seeing a rise in anxiety and depression at very young ages. And unfortunately, sometimes parents, it's easy, to just hand over the device or let them overindulge in screen time because they're quiet. But that doesn't mean that it's the right answer. So where this needs to start, where we need to recognize the problem, is we need to recognize it at our level as the parents. What are we doing? How are we holding ourselves accountable in the way we're interacting with devices? And how are we setting healthy boundaries and limits with our families, with our children, all the way up to our teenagers? And you may think, well, I don't really have a lot of boundaries or limits right now, or maybe you do. But if you feel like you don't, it's not too late. You can absolutely set those boundaries and limits. If you have young children, I would encourage you to look for opportunities when you would normally hand over a device and don't. Give only a certain time of the day and then put the device away. If you're going into the grocery store and sometimes your child may freak out in the grocery store or complain or want everything, I understand that. But how we can approach that differently instead of handing them a device to keep them quiet while you shop is to recognize our responsibility as a parent, that we can help engage the child. It doesn't need to be the device. In fact, there are missed opportunities when we hand over the device. By taking the device away and putting that child in the cart in front of you and going shopping and having conversation and talking about the groceries or letting them help pick something out or telling them, let's look for the bananas. Can you help me find the bananas? Okay, now we need to find the apples. And getting them engaged in the conversation, that not only builds the relationship with you, but it helps with their literacy, with their vocabulary. You are doing so much good for your child in their emotional development as they talk to you. In speech, there are so many wonderful things happening when you are communicating with them, when you're involving them in the process, rather than saying, here's a device, be entertained so things are calm and quiet. We want to make sure that we don't miss those opportunities. Again, in the grocery store, you could even, if it's an older child, maybe school age or preschool age even, you could have them make a list before you go to help you look for certain things. Make it seem like a treasure hunt or a fun experience. You could take these measures, and I know they take effort, but they also will support that child and your relationship. And if we just hand over a device all the time, there are so many missed opportunities. Again, if you have a child, school-age child or teenage child who has a device and they are having too much time on that device and you're seeing how it's impacting their behavior, it is okay to change the limit or expectation. Do not think just because it's been one way, it has to stay that way. If you think there needs to be more limits and boundaries, you need to have that conversation with your child. And you need to count on the fact that they will complain. They will not thank you. They will not say, you know what, thank you. Thank you for holding me accountable and making sure that my mental health is going well because I have less screen time. I highly doubt that they will thank you for that. But you know that it's the right thing as the adult and as the parent to have realistic, healthy boundaries and expectations with devices. And also, we don't want to miss out on those opportunities. So rather than letting your child be on a device, you can set a time frame, and then when they're done, offer other options. If they say, well, I'm bored, what can I do? You can offer options. You could play a game together. They could go for a walk. You could pass the football. And all these things are creating interaction, whereas being on a device isn't. Usually what they're doing is consuming. Yes, we can use devices for communicating, consuming, and consuming entertainment, but most often with children, it is consuming. So we want to make sure and have time limits on that and not give way to the device so that these other missed opportunities are happening where they're using their imagination, where they're having more conversation and interacting with others and using their creativity or playing a game and interacting. There are so many wonderful things that can be happening. So in order to avoid those missed opportunities, we need to make sure and have realistic boundaries and limits on devices. Again, if you haven't made those yet or you're not happy with the ones that you have set, change it. It's never too late.